Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Podcast and powered by 91 Network. You are listening to Season 5, Episode 5 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. A reminder, listeners, that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we are delighted to be here with you on Full Time, where we get to have a chat about the beautiful game. G, on this lovely Tuesday evening, how are you, my friend?
Not too bad. Scarps, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. Got to enjoy some of this evening outdoors, and I'm indoors getting to record with you. So I would say it's certainly a night well spent. In today's show, we are going to talk about Europe's Big Five, the start of the Champions League, the MLS, and local soccer. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. And without further ado, Gitano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started by taking a look at Europe's Big Five, and we will begin with the English Premier League. The top of the table looks, well, as you would expect it to look in these incredibly early stages. It's Manchester City and Arsenal at 1 and 2 respectively. Newcastle is third. Liverpool and Aston Villa are joint fourth. G, your Manchester City is the only team in the league with a perfect record, having not dropped any points. Arsenal, Newcastle, Brighton, and Nottingham Forest all remain unbeaten still. What have you made of the start of the Premier League season so far?
I mean, I feel like we can't talk about the start of the season without talking about Erling Haaland. Currently on pace for 97 Premier League goals, which is just absurd. And currently, as we record, has more goals than every other club individually in the league. 9 goals in 4 games. Just, it's one of those things that when you see a young player coming up, I remember when he was at Leipzig and Dortmund and talking about him being he's going to be one of the best strikers we ever see. He's going to break all these records. And it's weird to kind of be in the middle of it. He's currently doing this. We're going to look back in 10, 20, 30 years and be Erling Haaland at Manchester City was, one of the greatest players in the history of the game. So yeah, it's just a pleasure to watch him. And just he's found, not that he's ever out of form really, but just in a massively great vein of form right now. It's been fantastic to watch.
No kidding. And I mean, it sucks for the rest of the league, but it's also such a good look for the league to have such an amazing player, with that sort of quality around him, being able to, produce the types of goals that he's been able to score. He looks like a man amongst boys, but, irrespective of that, I would also say that City look fantastic. Arsenal still look really good. And, there's some good teams towards the top of the table as well, and some really good games that have been taking place, especially this past week, and some real crackers there. So loving the start of the Premier League season so far. And down at the bottom, it's Wolves, Southampton, and Everton who occupy the bottom 3. Gitano, both Southampton and Everton have failed to register a single point in the league so far. What's going on with them?
Everton might genuinely not get a point this year. They are, and it's not that they're playing bad. That's the thing. They're up 2 goals against Villa on the weekend. They're up 2. I forget who they played the previous game. They were up 2-0 there. Blew the leads both times. So it's not like they're just awful. It's not like they're, was it 07-08 Derby County? They're not that bad. They get themselves in this good position and just collapse. So yeah, I can't see them the way that they're playing. I just can't see them getting it over the line. They just seem to at 55, 60 minutes just completely collapse. Southampton, a little more expected. A young team. Like I said in our preview show, I don't think they're quite ready to stay in the Premier League. I think they'll kind of do the yo-yo up and down for a bit. But they've shown glimpses of being good, which is more than you could say for Everton at this point. And I expect, like I said, they'll probably end up relegated, but I expect them to have at least a stretch of decent games.
Yeah, and you know what? But these sort of teams that we talk about at the bottom of the table, a lot of it does come down to moments. in my opinion, you cannot be up 2 goals in back-to-back games and then drop those leads. And then in the case of Southampton up against Manchester United, they missed that penalty kick. That changes the complexion of the game. Then they end up losing the game 3-0. So these sorts of moments really matter, especially when you know that you're going to be up against it. But right now, both of those teams without a single point. Wolves, I think that they'll kind of come out of their struggles, but we'll obviously, of course, keep a close eye at the bottom of the table as we always do. Italy Serie A, it's early, but it is awesome. It's Udinese at the top of the table with 10 points. Napoli is second with 9 points. Inter, Juventus, and Torino all have 8 points. Gee, talk about a competitive start and a fun start might have had to Serie A in these opening stages of the season.
Yeah, this is it's exactly what we expected from Serie A. Obviously expected Inter to be kind of a little more ahead, but only 4 games in. It's not like they're far off. But yeah, just the sheer volume of teams in contention for the title, the European places, it's just insane. Especially coming off of how poor Serie A had been, in kind of the mid to 2010s, kind of post Ronaldo at Juve, because he kind of financially ruined Juve, which had a weird domino effect on the rest of the league. But yeah, just how good all of these teams are. Because even when you look a team like Milan's in 10th place, and again, it's only 4 games in, but that's just the depth. You look there's not a lot of teams that you look kind of above them and go, oh, they're definitely going to pass them. They're definitely going to pass them. You could, feasibly make an argument for Milan finishing, upper mid-table and 6th or 7th, maybe even missing out on a Champions League spot. It's just insane, the depth and quality in Serie A right now. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it makes for good viewership week in, week out, because you don't know what you're going to get, and as a fan, especially if you don't have a horse in the race, it's something that you love to see. In Spain's La Liga, it's Barcelona, who are nothing but perfect at the top of the table with 15 points. That's 5 wins, no draws, and no losses. Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, and Villarreal all have 11 points behind them. Gee, what a start here for Barcelona to kick off the campaign.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the bubble to burst. It will happen. Barcelona have just been so, just tumultuous as a club that there's no way this bubble doesn't burst. And Hansi Flick's a good manager. He's got a good squad. But I just think, when the bubble does burst and Barcelona fall off a cliff for, call it 6 weeks, then the league's really going to open up, and then that's where we're going to get the excitement there.
Yes, and I don't know when that bubble is going to burst, and I also rate Hansi Flick as a manager. I think he's fantastic, but I also am with you. I don't see that as this as being a long-term thing, but my God, they're off to a hot start. Out in Germany, it's the Bundesliga, and it's Bayern Munich who have a perfect record as well at this moment in time at top of the table. Second to them is both Dortmund and RB Leipzig. Heidenheim, Leverkusen, Frankfurt, and SC Freiburg are all joint third. Gee, very similar to Serie A, which we just talked about a moment ago. The Bundesliga is off to a great start here.
Yeah, big surprise for me is how good Bayern Munich have looked with Vincent Kompany in charge. Obviously, it's a fantastic squad. You could put me and you in charge of them, and they'll play well. But I think you're already kind of seeing some of his tactical ideas sticking. And if that's the case, I know I wasn't overly high on them in our preview show. But if kind of this early glance kind of sticks, they might be in for a really, really good season.
I think so too, and I saw some training clips, and maybe it's because the company's getting involved in the training. Maybe that's why he's inspired. Perhaps, but no, Bayern look very, very good indeed. And in France's league, PSG have been about as flawless as you could imagine. They have a perfect record atop of the table as well. Trailing them is Marseille and Monaco in joint second. Lens is just behind them. Gee, if you could speak to Ligue 1.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited in this season for Liga. Not that PSG have a bad squad by any means. Don't get me wrong, but this is their first year without kind of a real superstar talisman forward. Even when you think back to Ibra and Lavezzi and Cavani, for basically my whole lifetime as a soccer fan, they've had this superstar filled team. And again, they have a very good team. Don't get me wrong, but it's a little more balanced, a little more even throughout. And it's got slightly less star power in quotations. So I'm really excited to see if, a team like Marseille, a team like Monaco can maybe keep up with them. Maybe not all the way to the end, but, when we get to like March, hopefully it's not a 10 or 15 point gap. I really hope it's we see a more competitive season.
I would like to see that as well. And what I'm going to keep a close eye on is if that youthfulness for PSG this year, if that's going to propel them well ahead come, like you said, March, or if maybe a more experienced side in the league is going to catch them up and make a real battle of it. So I'm also going to keep a close eye on Ligue 1 this year, which, to be honest, I don't think I've ever said in my lifetime. So I am with you there. Shifting gears, it's the greatest domestic cup competition in the world that we have to look forward to yet again, and that, of course, is the Champions League. This year, the Champions League is taking on a new format, one that is unlike what we've seen across European competition down the years. G, I'm going to pass it over to you to give us an explanation as for how this year's Champions League is going to look, just so that folks might have some new insight as to what this format is going to look like.
Yeah, so this is straight off the Manchester City website. I'm sure every club participating has their kind of spiel, but it's just the City one. So 36 teams in the new Champions League. So under the new format, instead of the old group stage, your team's going to play 8 matches in the league, in quotations we'll call it. So it's not the same 3 opponents twice, home and away. It's actually 8 different teams, 4 games at home, 4 games away. So after that, the top 1 through 8 automatically qualify for the round of 16. And then 9 through 24, they're going to play a 2-legged playoff to qualify for the round of 16. And then the teams that are 25th or lower are eliminated. And there's no access to the Europa League this year, which is a weird twist. It's not one I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, and I get that insight. And there's certainly a lot to unpack there. But the big ideas for me are that, again, as many as 36 teams involved, each team getting 8 games instead of the traditional 6 that they would that teams used to get all of the years in the Champions League. So it's more games in the schedule for viewership purposes, but it's also more games for teams, players, and coaches. So, Gitano, again, I guess the real question here would be, this new format, is this something that you are for, or would you have rather seen things stay the same?
So as a fan, I'm never going to complain about seeing City play more games. It's just the way it is. Like I want to watch them play, as many games as possible. And I think, for the actual competition itself, I think it's really good. I think this new kind of league format is going to give a lot of opportunities to kind of teams outside of the traditional top 5 leagues, like teams like in Portugal and the Netherlands. So I think that's, in that aspect, it's good. But I'm sure you've heard what the players are saying about it. Manuel Akanji, interviewed over the weekend, joked that, the next time he'll get to rest is when he retires.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like, and this is, these guys are already playing, so like I can use City and Arsenal as examples, because the expectation is your 38-game league. You're going deep in the FA Cup, Champions League, and the League Cup. You're looking at nearly 70 games, plus the Club World Cup coming up this summer. There's a point where there's just too much for the players, and you can have the best trainers, the best diet, the best everything, best physio. The human body can only play so much high-level football before it just gives out. And so I just think, again, like as a fan, I love it. For the players, they're the ones playing it. They're the ones saying it's too much. I feel like you kind of have to side with them on this. Like this is what they do for a living. This is their job. And if they're saying that it's, a little too much and, or maybe this, you can't add more than this, like this kind of tops it out for how much they can just physically play in a calendar year, then yeah, you got to kind of have to listen to them.
I think you made so many good points there, Gitano. And for me, I have to say that I'm not for this. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not the type of person, I've said all of the time, in all facets of soccer, all facets of sport, especially coaching, the old phrase of, oh, well, we always done it this way. Well, you can't really use that line of logic, that line of reasoning, because things over time change. So maybe in like a couple of years, we'll just get used to this and it'll be another thing. But the Champions League format for me in the old way with the 6 games and these things, it just made perfect sense. you get drawn into those, 4 different pools or whatever, and you get put into those groups, and that's how it is. This new format, it just seems, I don't want to say a little bit all over the place, but when the way that you broke it down, it's easy to follow. But for a lot of people, I think it's going to take some getting used to. And, from the player's perspective, it is more games in the legs. It's a lot more for clubs to manage. I think that there's probably more bad than good, but we'll see how it unfolds. I'm willing to take back my words if it really works so well this year. But for now, I'm going to say that I would have rather it, stayed the same.
Just one more thing. I'm so glad City won it under the old format. Yeah. Just not that the new format's going to have an asterisk or anything, but just to be able to say, like, City won the Champions League the way that kind of, Real Madrid dominated and United did, like, just to be like, we did it that way too. And now if we win it in the new way, like, we also did it. But it's nice to have won the old competition.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we just get to win one finally. So. Last year, as we do remember, however, it was Real Madrid who won the Champions League for the 15th time in their club's history. We're not going to pick an out here, but instead we're going to go for a preliminary top 4 teams that we believe are going to be knocking on the door for the Champions League trophy this season, given the new format. So I'm going to hand it over to you first. Which 4 teams for you will be there, or they're just about towards the end of this competition?
I feel like we're probably going to have the same 4 teams.
I think that too. I have a gut feeling.
So I beat you to this. I'm going to go 3 kind of traditional big ones, and then I've gone for a team that's maybe not going to go all the way, but I think they're going to have a really solid campaign push for maybe a quarterfinal, semifinal. So the obvious ones, City, Real Madrid, and I think Atletico Madrid. Just the way they've rebuilt their squad over the summer, the firepower they added, I just think they have a real chance of going far in here. I don't have a team like Bayern Munich in there right now. I just think Vinny Company's got a lot on his plate. And I think that kind of focusing on the league and kind of regaining their Bundesliga title is kind of be the bigger priority for them. And I'm really just interested to see, and I'm not going to include their game today where they won 9-2, because that's a little much. But I'm interested to see how he manages in Europe, because it's so different from his domestic league. And PSG kind of lacking, I kind of just gave them credit for kind of not having that star power. But I think they're still in transition. I don't expect them to be a favorite in quotations. And then a team that I just had a weird inkling about things, a weird feeling. Feyenoord out of the Eredivisie, reigning champions, a really good mix of youth and experience. This group didn't lose a lot of players over the summer, so they have a team that knows how to win important games. I think they could make some noise. And like I said, they might not win it, might not make a semifinal, but I think they'll definitely qualify. And I think even if they play a team like a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich or City, it's not going to be an easy tie. I think they have the capacity to create some real problems for top teams.
I love that top 4, and I'm glad that you did chuck Feyenoord in there. Otherwise, I would have had the same. I did go pretty much in the exact same direction as you. I think anybody would be a bit of a fool to not include Real Madrid, given their, the quality of their players, the quality of their manager, just the club in general and their history. So I've got Real Madrid in there. I've got Manchester City in there. Again, top 2 for me, if not them, Real Madrid, but best team in the world, best manager in the world, so on and so forth. I can't not include City. I also have Atletico Madrid in there. With what they did in the summer, I can't pass that. They have an unbelievable squad. They have a fantastic manager who knows how to win big games at this level. He's very pragmatic, very smart, Simeone. So I think that they are going to be there. And I would be remiss if I didn't include my Arsenal, because I'm going to put them in there as well. I think with the squad depth that they have, it's not perfect, but it's certainly improved. And I think that given the run that they had in the competition last year to get to a quarterfinal, a lot of lessons were learned. And I think that this year that they will be in and around that sort of last 4 teams to make a proper run at it. So I'm going to go Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Manchester City, and Arsenal. The Champions League has kicked off as of this week, and the league phase will wrap up at the end of January. For all of your European competition updates, stay locked in right here to Full Time as the months go on. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The MLS is continuing to crack on, and the hunt for the playoffs is keeping us all entertained. In the Eastern Conference, Inter Miami is running the show atop of the table. Cincinnati is second, only to be trailed by the defending MLS Cup champions, Columbus. Toronto FC sits in 8th place, holding on to a spot for the playoffs with still 5 matches to play. G, for you in the East, how do things look, number one? And number two, what could TFC's fate be here in the coming weeks?
Yeah, the East is, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but like it's only 9 points between New England in last place and TFC in 8th. So they have one playoff spot between them. Top 9 go through. 9 points is like still not a ton in this league, and especially when you look at like the quality spread through, like it's not, again, outside of Miami running away with it is messy. Like that's just that's just always going to be.
His return game, I think he had what, 1 goal and an assist, or 2 goals and assists, or something?
Two goals and an assist, because
ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. So like discounting that, like it's still like a ton of parity in the league outside of San Jose as well, but for the opposite reasons, they're awful. So yeah, it's super tight. Again, like I would not put a penny to try and predict. Gamble. I wouldn't gamble a penny trying to predict who's going to qualify for the playoffs at this point. What I will say for TFC is they're in a playoff spot right now, 8th place in the East, so they can still fall 1 place and still be in a playoff spot. But they do play all teams, all the teams that they're playing, I should say, as it stands, are in the playoffs as well. So it's not, they don't have San Jose coming up, basically. A lot of tough games, on the schedule ahead. But I will say they've looked actually like pretty decent in this little turn of the year here. Osorio's in fine form. DeAndre Kerr, it seems like TFC finally have a somewhat reliable striker. Haven't really had one since Josie. I think it's taken a while, but I think the pieces are finally starting to click for John Herdman.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And 2 points for me specifically. We talk about it all the time on our show. Something like 9 points in the MLS for a 9-point swing, that's not abnormal. It's not something that's out of the ordinary. Like that very well could happen. You wouldn't expect for a team like Manchester City or PSG or Bayern Munich or somebody in those respective leagues to drop 9 points, but this could very well happen in the MLS. So the swing and the teams in the playoff positions could change when we talk about things in a few weeks' time. And then in the case of TFC, I agree with you. They've looked okay as of late. I was out on Saturday for a friend's birthday, and we were watching the TFC game, and I thought that they looked okay. Like it wasn't bad by any stretch. So the fact that they're in a playoff spot makes sense to me, but hopefully they're going to be able to hold on with those 5 games left to play, because certainly won't be easy. And out in the Western Conference, both teams in Los Angeles are pushing for top honors. It's currently the LA Galaxy who hold a 7-point lead at the top over their rivals LAFC. Colorado, Real Salt Lake, Vancouver, Houston, and Seattle are all knocking on the door. G, tightly contested in the West. What can you say here?
Yeah, statement win for the Galaxy in El Tráfico, 4-2 over LAFC. I think not that, again, they can have the swing of points there, and it's only 7 between the two of them at the top, but I think that kind of firmly cemented LA Galaxy as kind of the top of the West. And again, outside of San Jose being god awful, I before we record next time, I'm going to make sure that I look and see if they're one of the worst teams in MLS history, because they are in that ballpark. 17 points after 28 games. Like men's league, like our men's league teams could probably do that. Like I feel like we could get 17 points. If we put like a Sioux all-stars team, like we could get 17 points in MLS. But again, like it's just that swing, between 9th, so the last playoff spot being Minnesota with 39 points, and St. Louis in 13th, so one above San Jose, they're in 28 points. So again, like there's just 11 points in 5 games. Again, in MLS is just not a lot. In MLS, it basically has to be like mathematically confirmed for you to even like start to think about it being confirmed. Like I think there's so many like, and the games coming up too are incredible. A lot of top of the table teams are playing. So LA Galaxy are playing Portland soon, and where's the other one here? Seattle have not Seattle. Salt Lake have FC Dallas. So like it's a lot of like high-end games coming up in the stretch here. So I'm super excited. I think the West is just like a touch more competitive than the East, just because the East has Miami. But
I'm with you on that. You know what? Some of my favorite matches this year in the MLS that I've been able to watch have come from the Western Conference. So love the competitiveness there, and just love the competitiveness, of the league. And that push for the playoffs is going to be such a real thing. So as that push for the playoffs becomes more and more real in the MLS, you can get all of your updates right here on Full Time. And now it is time for a local soccer update. The SFC Cup is back for its third edition here in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. The tournament is hosted here in the Soo as an extension of the outdoor season and a preseason tournament for the upcoming indoor season. It's another cup competition that we have here in the Soo, and I had the opportunity last night to play the first game of the tournament. We have our next one tomorrow night. How awesome is it that our city can host another tournament here locally?
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it kind of sits in that sweet spot between outdoor and indoor. I have to be Manuel Kangji and take rest between seasons because I'm old, so I don't play in it. But to have that opportunity for everyone else really to go and play, get some touches in at the NCC, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and a lot of people are in that position where they do want to either take some rest or they want to get some more touches, but regardless, it's an opportunity for people to play if they want to. There's a cash prize on the line, these sorts of things. So definitely exciting times as we have basically a month until we start indoor soccer. So for those who are looking to catch and watch tournament games, games are played every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening at 8 p.m. at the Northern Community Centre in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. And in other local soccer news, it's the Algoma Thunderbirds who will play a pair of home games this weekend against the York Lions in the OUA. York is coming to town, and they're consistently one of the best teams in the province and in many cases the country. Right now, the men for York are ranked 5th in the country. Algoma, from the men's perspective, are currently in a playoff spot, and they're halfway through their season. They just picked up 4 points at the weekend, a 2-0 win over Windsor and a 0-0 draw against Brock. So the men are looking tidy. The women are continuing to improve, but York comes to town this weekend. Can we look forward to these games?
Yeah, I think, again, we talk about having our teams being kind of best in the province, best in the country, but to have one of the actual best teams in the country come to town, that is, it's a special weekend. It should be an absolute banger of a game. Again, it's just that chance to watch. We've said, I think we've talked about this on the show. I know we've talked about it off the show, but the next level up from the university soccer is the CPL. It's actual professional football. So to have the best of the rest coming to the Soo to play our local team in Algoma U, it's just a spectacular occasion.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the quality that's going to be on display this weekend would be, I would encourage anybody to go. You and I were going to be going together to watch on Sunday. So yeah, I would definitely encourage anybody to get out. So for those games, if anyone is looking to go and watch, they will take place on Saturday and Sunday this weekend. That's September 21st and 22nd. The women will kick off at 1 p.m. and the men will kick off at 3:15 p.m. on both days. The games, as always, will take place at Superior Heights Soccer Field. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we bring today's show to a close, we want to send our deepest thanks to all of you for your ongoing support of our show. It's truly what keeps us going. My friend, well done tonight.
Well done to you as well. Again, and as always, thank you for having me on.
Always, man. Always, always, always. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of September 30th, 2024. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the MLS, and local soccer. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of both the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Podbean. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning into Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.